Okay, today we're going to work on order of operations. Okay, this is on page 6 and page 7. And our title is Order of Operations. And a lot of us have already heard of order of operations, and we have a little saying that we do whenever we're talking about order of operations. We call it PEMDAS, and that's what we're going to be making today. Okay, the first letter is P. I'm going to decorate my P, but you do not have to. It is whatever you feel like. But this stands for parentheses, and grouping symbols. So parentheses can look like this, but we also have brackets and braces. And what happens with parentheses, we start with the outermost and then work our way inside. So I think that is very important to note. It is also important to note that if there are more than one operation inside the parenthesis, you always use the order of operations. So I'm going to put a little star out here. If there are more than one operation inside the parentheses, always follow the order of operations. So what that means, just for example, and you don't have to write this in your notebook, if inside of my parentheses it says 3 plus 1 times 2, I have to follow my order of operations. So I have to do my multiplication before I can do my addition. Okay? So that's all that means. Our next letter is E. E, of course, stands for exponents. And we talked about those yesterday. Okay, looks like our base and our exponent up here, the way I've written it. And the next two things are of equal importance. Okay, the first one we write is an M. This M stands for multiply. That is symbolized by sometimes a little X or a dot. And next is a D. Which stands for divide. For division, you can use the line with the two dots. You can also, for long division, use the box. Sometimes a slash, okay? Or sometimes, if you have a number over a number, that could also mean division. Now, the very, very important thing about multiplication and division is that you do not forget that they are of the same exact importance. Multiplication is not more important than division just because we say it first, okay? If division comes first from left to right, then we do our division first. If multiplication comes first, then we multiply first. So I think that's worth a star over here on this side. Always multiply and divide from left to right. Okay, so that's going from left to right. And we've got the same thing going on with our next two. The last two things that we consider when we're looking at order of operations are addition. So we're going to write a big A. And subtraction. And of course, we know that this is an addition sign and this is our subtraction sign. And this one also deserves a star, because just like multiplication and division, although addition comes first when we say PEMDAS, it is not more important than subtraction. Okay, if we're looking at something from left to right, we can subtract before we add. So for an example, if we were to have the problem 14 minus 4 plus 3, we would definitely subtract before we add. Okay, so that would give us 10 plus 3, which gives us 13. Okay, so always add and subtract from left to right. Okay, so this should be just a review for you. I know that you start talking about it in 4th and 5th grade. So let's go ahead and look at some examples. The first example that they give us, 5 squared times 2 squared divided by 10. And I like to just write PEMDAS PEMDAS anytime I'm looking at a problem like this so that I can go through. Are there any parentheses? No. Are there any exponents? Yes. We have 5 squared, and we also have 2 squared. Now, some of you may not feel comfortable doing this in one step. Since the exponents are completely separate, they do not have anything to do with each other, I can do them in the same step. If you're not comfortable with that, it's okay. Do 5 squared first, rewrite your sentence, and then do 2 squared. No big deal. So for me, I'm going to write 25 times 4 divided by 10. Okay, we have no more exponents. Moving on to multiplication and division. Do we have multiplication? Yes. Do we have division? Yes. So we work from left to right. 25 times 4 is 100. 100 divided by 10. We always rewrite. 100 divided by 10 is 10. I'm going to box in my answer. Remember, we always want our answer to stand out, so you can box it in, bubble it in, circle it, whatever you need to do. Okay, next we have 2 plus 1 inside of our parentheses squared times 4. Okay, this one can be a little bit tricky. You see, we have parentheses and we also have an exponent. But what comes first? Parentheses. So you have to do what's inside of your parentheses before you can do what's on the outside of your parentheses. So for us, we're going to do 2 plus 1, which is 3. Bring down your exponent, so 3 squared times 4. Moving on to our exponent, 3 squared is 9. Bring down everything else. 9 times 4 is 36. Make it stand out. Okay. Next we have 4 squared minus 2 times 8. Okay, so do we have any parentheses? No. Exponents? Yes. So we're going to do our 4 squared. Remember, 4 squared means 4 times 4. So that would be 16 minus 2 times 8. Moving on, do we have multiplication or division? Yes, we have multiplication. 2 times 8 gives me 16. Bring everything else down. So that gives me 16 minus 16 is my last operation, which is 0. So I'm going to bubble that in. Next one, we have brackets and parentheses. So what we want to do is we want to work from the inside out. So since we have some parentheses on the inside, we're going to do that first. 4 times 5 is 20. And I keep my parentheses just because I like to. It helps me until I know that I don't need them anymore, which I didn't, but it's no big deal to have those extra parentheses in there. Now working inside of the brackets, I have 36 minus 20, which would give me 16. (16 times 2) would give me 32. All right. Next one, again, we have parentheses and brackets. So we're going to go from the inside out. We've got 16 plus 6 inside of our parentheses. 16 plus 6 is 22. Bring everything else down. Inside of our brackets, we have 22 divided by 2. That would be 11. Bring down the times 5. And 11 times 5 is 55. And very last one, we have 4 times, parentheses, 7 plus 3 cubed, parentheses. So we are going to work inside of our parentheses. That's the first thing we're going to do. I have an addition problem or an exponent. Which comes first? Exponent. So we've got 3 cubed. That means 3 times 3 times 3. I know 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. Bring everything else down. Okay. Now we're going to do our addition. 7 plus 27 is 34. Bring down your 4 times. Now they give us that multiplication sign, but they do not have to. Anytime that you have a number outside of your parentheses and there is no operation, it just means to multiply. So 4 times parentheses 34 is the same exact thing as 4 parentheses 34. Okay, so just in case you see that in any of your exercise questions, these two things mean the exact same thing. So when I solve that, 4 times 34 is 136. I'm going to bubble that in very quickly. I could also write down here that this equals 136 and this equals 136. So they're the same exact thing. Okay, that wraps us up for today.